Navy crewman who was killed in the Pearl Harbor attack during World War II 80 years ago has been identified and will soon receive a proper burial. Sheridan Media's Kevin Coyle has the story.
The Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency has announced that 28-year-old Navy gunner's mate 3rd Class Herman Schmidt of Sheridan, who was killed during World War II, was accounted for in January of 2021. On December 7, 1941, Schmidt was assigned to the battleship USS Oklahoma, which was moored at Fort Island, Pearl Harbor, when the ship was attacked by Japanese aircraft. The USS Oklahoma sustained multiple torpedo hits, which caused it to quickly capsize. The attack on the ship resulted in the deaths of 429 crewmen, including Schmidt. His body was eventually recovered, but at the time it was unidentifiable, and he was buried at the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific, known as the Punch Bowl in Honolulu. In October 1949, a military board classified those who could not be identified as non-recoverable, including Schmidt. Between June and November 2015, DPAA personnel exhumed the USS Oklahoma unknowns from the Punch Bowl for analysis. To identify Schmidt's remains, scientists from the DPAA used dental and anthropological analysis. Schmidt's name is recorded on the walls of the missing at the Punch Bowl, along with the others who are missing from World War II. A rosette will be placed next to his name to indicate he has been accounted for. Schmidt will be buried in Arlington National Cemetery on a date to be determined. I'm Kevin Coyle for Sheridan Media News.
The 67th Wyoming Legislature will convene for their general session on Tuesday, January 10th at noon. Sheridan Media's Ron Richter has details.
Opening ceremonies at the State Capitol building in Cheyenne will be the first order of business for the legislature, followed by the swearing in of new members and legislative leadership. There will be a brief recess before both bodies begin introduction and referral of bills Tuesday afternoon. According to the Wyoming Legislative Service Office, all floor proceedings and committee meetings during the 2023 general session will be broadcast live via the Wyoming Legislature's YouTube channel. During the second day of legislative proceedings of the 2023 general session, the legislature will convene in a joint session on Wednesday at 10 a.m., at which time Governor Mark Gordon will deliver his State of the State message, followed by the State of the Judiciary message delivered by Wyoming Supreme Court Chief Justice Kate M. Fox. Seating in the House Gallery will be available on a first-come, first-served basis. Members of the public are encouraged to watch the joint session live on the Wyoming PBS YouTube channel. Seating will be available in Capitol Meeting Room W113 to accommodate overflow crowds. The general session is scheduled to conclude on Friday, March 3rd. I'm Ron Richter, Sheridan Media News.
City of Sheridan Utilities Department will have 6 new work trucks in the near future following a bid award by the Sheridan City Council at their meeting on Tuesday. Prior to the bid opening considered, they ultimately approved to by the council. Utilities Director Dan Roberts explained the city's fleet replacement plan, which identifies a scheduled and projected cost for replacing each of its vehicles on a prescribed basis.
We have vehicle replacement plans for every city pieces of equipment, and that includes vehicles, but also operational equipment from large to small. We have a plan that really schedules the replacement of these vehicles based on things of utilization of hours, mileage, cost of the overall maintenance, the age of the vehicle itself. It's basically just a big spreadsheet of what our annual expenses are based on the replacement schedules of these vehicles. And we budget off those and prepare budgets accordingly.
Roberts said there are 111 pieces of equipment in the Utilities Department fleet replacement plan, and of that number, 26 are considered work trucks.
Last fiscal year, we budgeted to replace 3 of those work trucks, basically half-ton work trucks that operators and workers use to do their day-to-day activities. We were not able to procure any of those through several attempts to solicit through the bidding process. So what that has happened is it's carried over into this fiscal year. So instead of 3, which we had scheduled for this fiscal year for replacement, now we have 6. And so we've attempted to solicit and purchase and procure vehicles, these half-ton trucks this current year. This is our 3rd bid that we've done to try and procure vehicles. The previous attempts came with no availability, but yet a general price or a price that was way over budget. So we went at it again because we found some vendors that were actually receiving vehicles and they were becoming available and felt that they could actually bid a price for the city.
Johnson County Commissioner Bill Novotny spoke with Sheridan Media about the new commission and their pending legislative session on our Public Pulse program on Wednesday. Sheridan Media's Aaron Palmer has more.
The Johnson County Commission started a new chapter on Tuesday with former Commissioner Linda Greeno officially stepping down and new Commissioner Jeff Shelley taking his seat. Commission Chair Bill Novotny, while a guest on our talk show Public Pulse Wednesday, discussed the changes to the commission and what he expects out of the coming legislative session that begins next week in Cheyenne. First, Novotny commended Greeno for her service, as well as County Clerk Vicki Edelman, who has also retired.
Commissioner Greeno, who was an absolutely fantastic commissioner, kind of decided that 8 years was enough and that I think she'd accomplished the things that she set out to do. And so she elected to enjoy kind of her retirement and her family that's in the area. And I can tell you that it was really a pleasure and an honor for everybody that had the chance to work with Linda. Just a great commissioner. We also lost our incredible county clerk who decided to retire, and Vicki Edelman was a stateswoman and just a great asset. And I certainly am going to miss her, but I also understand that she wants to enjoy her retirement and follow her grandkids and do things with her husband, who's also now retired. So our hats off to those two ladies and their service.
On the upcoming legislative session, Novotny said he believes the main focus will be property tax relief.
First and foremost, and I know it's on everybody's mind, is property tax reform. There are multiple ideas floating around right now, whether it's a cap, whether it's making residential property a separate class under the tax structure. And so what we've got to make sure as these multiple ideas are moving forward in the process that they don't conflict with each other and that something gets done, something achievable. Unfortunately, it may mean that achievable thing also then requires a constitutional amendment in regards to taxes for residential. So it may be a multi-year effort to get that done.
On the subject of state funds from higher oil and gas tax revenue and how he would like to see it used, Novotny said he would like to see some coming back to counties and cities in the state, as well as putting some into savings for future use. For Sheridan Media News, I'm Aaron Palmer reporting.
Also from Johnson County, the Johnson County Library has a new director. The announcement came during their county commission meeting this week when the library board asked them to lift the hiring freeze. Current library director Steve Raza explained the need.
First of all, just to let you know, Lindsay Beliveau has been hired by the library board to be our new director. The board interviewed several candidates, and it turns out that Lindsay was the best one for the job, and I wholeheartedly agree. As a result of that, Lindsay's position was heading up our children's department over there at the library, so that, by virtue of her taking the director's role, becomes vacant. So we were just going to move forward the commissioners for permission to refill that position. There wouldn't be any change in the salary or benefits or anything like that as far as we can tell. It's budgeted at the one amount for this current fiscal year, which would remain the same.
Raza's resignation from the library will be effective as of the library board meeting on Monday, January 23rd. Lindsay Beliveau was hired by the Board of Trustees on December 27th and will assume her new duties on January 23rd. The Sheridan Police Department has compiled the use of force statistics for 2022 and discussed them with our Sheridan Media's Public Pulse audience on Wednesday. Captain Tom Ringley and Lieutenant Dan Keller discussed what force is and how it's used within the scope of police work. Officers are trained not to use force in excess of which is responsible and necessary to protect themselves or others from physical harm, to restrain or subdue and resist a resistant individual, or to bring an unlawful situation safely and effectively under control. And there are different types of force that any officer may use, including professional presence, verbal commands, physical force, empty hands techniques, intermediate force that involves the use of less lethal weapons until resistance is overcome, such as a taser, baton, or OC spray, deadly force when officers reasonably believe that action is necessary in defense of human life. And Ringley talked about the use of force stats from the Sheridan PD over the last year.
This year, we had 23 uses of force. We had over 11,000 calls, 474 custodial arrests. We made 244 arrests on warrants, and we issued a further 942 summonses. So we used the minimum amount of force necessary to achieve a legitimate police objective. We used empty hand techniques 4 times. We only deployed OC 1 time, deployed tasers 4 times. We utilized the taser drive stun once. We didn't use any deadly force in 2022. We had 3 officers injured during use of force incidents, and then we didn't have any suspects injured beyond the level of the abrasion sprains or bruises. So we're very happy about that.
And you can find out more with Aaron Palmer's story on our website today. The start of the new year, the Wyoming legislative session, is next week. Legislators in the north central part of the state are attending a few more events to promote their ideas and answer questions from the people before they head to Cheyenne. On Wednesday, State Senator Dave Kinski, along with Representatives Cyrus Western and Ken Pendergraft, were among those the Sheridan County Chamber of Commerce's pre-legislative luncheon at the Ramada Plaza. Among the many issues discussed at the session will be the governor's supplemental budget proposal and how to save and spend budget surplus the state currently has. State Representative Cyrus Western says one of the issues he's interested in is the residential property tax amendment, which the House Joint Resolution is House Joint Resolution number 1.
The average assessment went up 40% in Sheridan County, which is a lot of money. And so I think putting a cap on that and dealing with that situation and giving our senior citizens and just our blue-collar folks across the state and certainly across my district, giving them that break because, I mean, that's their properties. That's a really important fundamental thing to them. So that's going to be one of my top priorities.
More than 150 total House bills and Senate files have been filed within the Legislative Service Office. For the latest news, weather, sports, photos, streaming video, and audio, join us online at SheridanMedia.com. I'm Trevor Jackson.